All right, everyone, welcome to the Progressive Agenda on WAKT, We Act Radio, 106.1. So I'm pretty progressive. John here, not so much, but I'm progressive enough for both of us, so hopefully we'll do all right. So the coy wolf, new animal coming about in the New England area, even to like West Virginia, north of the Great Lakes in Canada. And it's basically a wolf and coyote hybrid. It's 1/4 wolf, 2/3 coyote, and the rest is dog. So you can figure that out. The reason this came about is because of overhunting of wolves. It's kind of a ecological problem that we've caused. So what do you think about that, John? The fact that our meddling with wolves and, destruction of their environment has led to this new species, though it's incredibly successful species. What do you think about it?
I definitely think it's a potential problem there, James.
So why do you think it's
especially in the urban area, having small children or household pets, cats, dogs, you got to watch out in the backyard before you let your dog out at night. There could potentially be a pack of coy wolves lurking in your backyard. I've seen coyotes in Slovenia. They've, started to move in, and it'll get worse. And these coy wolves, they seem like they're more powerful, they're faster, and who knows how wild they could get.
Well, I mean, that's true, but at the same time, we've caused this problem, right? And if we continue to react, it may even get worse. We don't know. Our meddling has created literally a new species, right?
What do you propose we do about this?
Well, that's the thing. I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, if we're the problem that caused it, what should we do? Should we allow open hunting like they have in Ottawa with the deer?
No, I mean, I don't know. Maybe in a short-term thing. I don't want
concentrated
to condone that, though.
hunting
I don't like the killing of animals personally. Well, I think we need to redesign how we do urban planning and things like that, and urban development in a way that doesn't necessarily wouldn't cause that to interfere. Basically, we wouldn't have an issue. Hopefully, that's my idea at least.
All right.
Yeah. All right. So that covers the coy wolf. In marijuana news, that's a thing. Yes. Medical marijuana is coming to Ohio. It's different than a lot of other states. You're not going to be able to smoke it with this law, but you're going to be able to get.
This is all since we have fought to decriminalize it.
Right.
Toledo.
Okay. Well, yeah. We'll get that to. We'll get to that in a second. The medical marijuana, though, is it was signed into law by John Kasich, believe it or not, and it's going to allow people with about, I think it's 40 different conditions or something like that. Some of them very serious, some of them not so. You can look up
as irritable bowel syndrome.
I don't remember that one. I know glaucoma. There was glaucoma, spinal cord injuries, MS, things like that. That's just a few. There's also fibromyalgia, ladies, if you got fibro. So that, yeah. Anyways, you're not going to be able to smoke it. It's just going to be oils, things that you can vape, and things of that nature. So nothing really in terms of
edibles.
Yeah, edibles too. Yeah, you're right.
Goods.
Yeah. Okay. And then, all right. So, at the same time that this is going on, this isn't exactly.
Congress has stopped medical marijuana for veterans.
Yeah, I guess we can talk about that. We can talk about that right now. So there was a bill going through that was going to allow veterans to get medicinal marijuana, and that was blocked by Republicans in Congress, unfortunately. And
of all symptoms, I believe PTSD is up there in severity of how well marijuana.
Right, that was the main reason. Was
how well marijuana
PTSD.
works with PTSD.
I mean, we know how big of a crisis PTSD is in our veteran communities, unfortunately. That's pretty awful. But at the same time that the medicinal marijuana is going on statewide, we also have an interesting situation where we as Toledoans voted to decriminalize marijuana, but unfortunately that has been recriminalized by the courts. The law was struck down, found to be unconstitutional, which, I mean, of course, we all knew was a possibility. I mean, there's the supremacy clause of the Constitution, but it's just kind of
not to mention it's just a city going against the state.
But that's the point. That's what like the supremacy clause involves. But it was struck down by the courts. This was, I believe, this had something to do with the Republican control, because a lot of states that are Democratic. That are controlled by Democrats. I'm not a Democratic Party apologist or anything, but like they at least don't go after this, so that's nice. I mean, you gotta understand. I mean, these laws are disproportionately applied to African Americans and minorities, but the thing is that whites and blacks smoke marijuana at the same rate. So obviously, this is just racial profiling and things of that nature, and it's really unfortunate. And considering that the Toledo area has a population that's 24%, I'm sorry, like 25%, I think a little bit more African American, I do worry for our communities, for our black community, because I do know that already these laws in our area is disproportionately applied to African Americans, and that is a tragedy.
And also, there was a study that just came out that weed can make you thinner. Yeah, weed can make you thinner. A sativa strain, right? It's not more indica. Of a cerebral head high that doesn't give you, let's say, the munchies. Right. You'd get hungry whenever, and
yeah, it's almost like
it's also used in exercising. Some people have a workout routines now where they smoke beforehand and then they go work out. You test where you fall underneath a certain required dosage before you work out to work at your optimum level.
Right, and that's certainly effective. And like the reason is because this strain with the different CBDs aside from THC can function as a stimulant. But the indica has the opposite effect, and that is the one that has the stereotypical munchies and lazy stoner symptoms. So,
and then we have in Oregon some workplace issues going on with medical marijuana.
No, actually, there were workplace issues, but what's happening is those issues have actually gotten fixed. So, government employees for a while were getting fired because they had medicinal marijuana, and Oregon's a state that has legalized recreational marijuana, so I mean, this is kind of like, it's a little bit ridiculous.
Yeah, but if you're allowed a 10-minute smoke break for tobacco, cigarettes, it should only be fair that you're allowed to use your medicine at your workplace.
At the same time, don't get intoxicated at work, people. Don't do that. Yeah.
No, nothing where it would interfere with your
with your work ethic or whatever. Yeah. All right, well, we're going to go to a music break, and then we'll be right back. We're going to talk about ISIS. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, welcome back to the Progressive Agenda. That was ND by Inego. All right, so ISIS has been busy, to say the least. They attacked a shopping center in Iraq. 125 people lost their lives, mainly Shia shoppers. Really unfortunate. They were shopping for Ramadan. Then there was the event that I'm sure you all heard of in Istanbul. An airport was attacked by suicide bombers as well. Very unfortunate. Many people lost their lives. And in Saudi Arabia was attacked in Medina, which I'm not sure if you know, is the second holiest site in Islam. So this is
Very unfortunate.
yeah, it's very unfortunate. We all know that they are a radical Islamic group. However, this has offended many Muslims across the world for obvious reasons. I think that goes without saying. Unfortunately, part of the problem here is Saudi Arabia has been exporting this ideology. They pay for radical mosques in other countries and things of that nature, and they are preaching things that basically say, kill people that don't agree with you, and that's really unfortunate. It's led to a lot of this extremism across the world, unfortunately, and it kind of backfired because now ISIS is saying that the Saudi royalty and Saudi Arabia doesn't fit their hardline idea, So this is, it's just, I don't even know what to say about it.
It's too much.
It is too much. It really is, The Saudi king has said that he was going to fight this kind of extremism with an iron fist, which, I'm going to be honest, I think his idea of an iron fist isn't going to work here.
Yeah, I haven't seen his iron fist. Isn't very iron.
No, I'm saying like the more. Okay, so this is what I was hoping we would get to talk about. So ISIS basically takes the strategy of Osama bin Laden, where you do something that's inflammatory and causes a reactionary response from the native population, and the response will be directed toward Osama bin Laden thought, and unfortunately he's been right for the most part. The response will be directed at the Muslim population as a whole rather than the terrorists, and as a result, the idea is that those reactionary responses will further radicalize people within that population. And as far as right now, it appears to be true, which is just the most unfortunate thing. So if we were smart, if we were savvy in terms of international affairs, which unfortunately we aren't because the world is a big imperial chessboard, we would actually realize that the correct response, and the Saudi king would too, that this is a war of ideology. You need to defeat the radical ideology with a ideology of liberation, one that allows people to be free.
It's kind of hard when you do all this in the name of your God.
Well, that's kind of, yeah, so it would work better in a country like ours, wouldn't it? So, like, you have over there where it is pretty authoritarian, an authoritarian monarchy, right? So you, they do a lot of things in the name of their religion. It's really unfortunate. Islam is a peace-loving religion, but you see with which is a common trend in history, people will take something that is a very peaceful ideology and then use it for violence and to justify violence, and that's very unfortunate. But I just hope that everything works out there, but I'm not confident that will. And in other ISIS-related news that isn't really related to ISIS, but is actually related to the prejudice that we have in the U.S., which is kind of looking at the other end of this. So I don't know if you guys know, but Islamic terrorism is the third largest threat of terrorism in the U.S. It's not very up there. It's one of those things you gotta watch for, but this is definitely something that's more risky, that's more likely to happen in other countries and not the U.S. Though it may happen, and though there was the Orlando shooting, but he wasn't actually a member of ISIS or anything like that. So what happened was a man in Avon, Ohio, which is northeast of Elyria and east of Lorraine, was attacked by police. What happened was a lady heard this gentleman speaking on the phone. He was dressed in traditional Arab garb, so the white robe with kind of I don't know. It has that
a headdress.
I mean, maybe, I don't know. I probably should. Hopefully you guys know what I'm talking about. The guy was talking on the phone. He's a businessman, so he's probably
speaking in a different language.
I mean, that may have been what happened, but that wouldn't be that
might cause somebody to have a reaction. Reaction.
Well, here's actually what happened. All right, so the lady at this place, at the hotel that this guy was at, she heard the guy speaking, and he was wearing this traditional Arab garb, and as a result, she calls the police, and she's saying, I think he's pledging allegiance to ISIS or something, and she literally said, or something, right? And it's terrible. This guy, that's so ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? You see a guy who's just clearly, he's just Arab.
She thought he was going to blow the place up, so she called the cops.
Yeah, but that's that's completely ignorant. Obviously you know that, but
why would she do that? He's there for business.
Well, you know why. You know why she did that, because the attitude towards Muslims in this country. That's why she did that. I mean, and this is conflated with Arab ethnicity as well. You know what I'm saying? So so they see an individual that doesn't look like them, and she probably watches too much Fox News or CNN, and so this lady was fearful for a reason that she probably shouldn't be fearful. So that he wasn't actually doing anything that would cause her to be oh, maybe I should call the cops or something. He's just checking into a hotel. He's wearing traditional...
She was just paranoid.
Yeah, but it's because she's a racist.
But do you think that's because of the media?
I do think it's because... I think it's a few things. I think it's our history in this country. I think it's the media. I think it's a lot of things.
When you feed into it, it just keeps growing. It never ceases to exist.
No, I know, but it's not just the media, There's an entire social infrastructure involved with this institutional racism kind of stuff. And if you're a different religion and you're a different color and you speak different language,
different sexuality.
Yep, anything. If you are not a cisgendered white person,
you are an infidel.
Oh, a cisgendered white person that goes to church every Sunday, unless you're a Seventh-day Adventist or something. I think they're Saturday, but whatever. Oh, you can't be a Catholic either. That's another one. John and I were both raised Catholic. I was baptized Lutheran, so you guys know something about us. Okay, so. Now,
but just to clear it up,
what?
We are no longer Catholic.
Oh yeah, if you want to talk about that, John and I both are atheists. So agnostic atheists. So if you showed me absolute proof that God exists, I'd probably have to admit God exists. Go ahead and bring that proof to me.
If I had to live one way, it would be like a Buddhist, definitely.
I mean, I guess, but you're not gonna believe in all that reincarnation garbage, are you?
I don't know. You can't just.
I mean, I guess I can't disprove it, but that's the same reason why we don't believe in Christianity.
But there's other things that you can disprove.
I mean, I guess. I don't know. It's what's the idea? You're not able to disprove a claim that has no proof in the first place. I don't know. Anyways, I'm sorry if that offended anybody. Okay, so we're cool with you if you're religious. That's all fine. We're just not. Israel. is expanding its settlements into Palestine after the murder of a 13-year-old girl. So essentially what happened here is a young Palestinian man snuck into the house of this girl who was living with her parents at the time and stabbed her to death. You know, and obviously that's not a good thing. That's pretty awful. But I mean, there really is no but. But at the same time, what's going on here in like the macro picture is that Israel is expanding these settlements. Like, so these like they look kind of like condos or something. Like, I don't know. They look nice, but they're internationally illegal. So, I mean, that's a thing.
But to build on top of that,
what?
They also shut off their water supply for
no, they did. I was going to get to that. So at the same time that they're expanding these settlements that are illegal, and they're using the unfortunate murder of this poor girl to justify it, when the reason that these people are radicalized like this in the first place are because of the settlements. So, like, you know, it's a positive feedback loop. Israel knows, or I'm sorry, not Israel as a whole of the country. Netanyahu and the Likud party know exactly what they're doing. All right, they know exactly what they're doing, and yeah. So at the same time that they're expanding these settlements, these companies have been restricting access of water in Palestine, and that's obviously egregious. It's it most definitely is some sort of like war crime or something. I mean, you can't do that. You can't. Like,
if you're gonna ask where have we been at in this entire situation, you
yeah.
can go ahead and look at the Clinton loyalists.
Yeah, well, Clintonites, Clinton loyalists, whatever you want to call it, basically establishment Democrats in the Democratic Party. Well, okay, but I guess we should do full disclaimer for anyone that wants to, get mad at us. The Republican Party is definitely even more, like, in favor of this kind of, like, extreme Israeli nationalism that is causing all this strife for the Palestinian people. I know a few Palestinians, by the way. They've had to like move here as a result of all this. It's pretty traumatic for them. It's really unfortunate. And but yeah, basically, so Bernie Sanders was trying to get into the Democratic platform a plank that would cause the Democratic Party to denounce the actions of the Netanyahu government by calling an end for the Israeli occupation of Palestine, and that would condemn the settlements as a whole. So what's going on here is that was struck down, and that's very unfortunate. Now remember that Bernie Sanders is ethnically Jewish. Okay, he's not religious, but he is ethnically Jewish. So like, Bernie Sanders like. Like, you can't, like, their favorite claim to make with this is that just because you don't support, like, the extreme, like, hyper-nationalism of the Likud party, that you, like, are an anti-Semite. That couldn't be further than the truth, though sometimes it is. Let's not get it twisted, but, yeah. Bernie Sanders lost out on a few more planks, too, but he got, including the TPP, which is still in the Democratic platform, folks. They say that the reason is to not contradict President Obama, but let's be honest, they'd be voting for it anyways. And, that just so you know, guys, those free trade agreements are why there are no more jobs in this area. Okay? Like, remember how there used to be all of these factories? No? Okay, so NAFTA. I'm sure you guys know. NAFTA, the abolition of our protectionist trade policy, and all those things have led to the outsourcing of jobs away from Ohio, away from Michigan, away from the Rust Belt, into other countries. And then those jobs, once those are moved to another countries, as soon as they can, they automize the job. So those jobs don't exist anyways anymore. Well, I mean, maybe they still do, but that's the larger goal with a lot of these companies. The idea is like, as soon as you can, you want to replace your variable capital with fixed capital because it's a lot easier to. Well, it's going to help your bottom line because it's cheaper to have a machine, but also you can better predict your expenditure and things like that. Okay, and good thing we're talking about that because in further science news, we got in the EU, they are considering plans to recognize electronic persons. Now, what is an electronic person? That's a good question. I mean, like these things don't necessarily have like. I mean, these things are just being negotiated. You know, the definition could change within a day's time. You know, it's basically the idea. Like, you know, if you're a cyborg or something like that, you would still be considered a person. So, you know, because like at some point, you know, like maybe if you replace half your body parts with machine parts, I don't know, maybe you don't look too human anymore. So
in that point, they'd say you lose your right to vote,
or something like that. You know what I mean?
Receive benefits,
right? Like it could be used for political reasons. It would just be a mess. I don't know if you guys saw that new Deus Ex game, but it's kind of like that. Kind of looks pretty good. You tagged me in that trailer. Yeah. Anyways, and then Apple is suing this guy that likes to upload videos on YouTube about how to repair your MacBook. They're suing because Apple makes a lot of money when you send your MacBook either back to repair with them or even buy a new one.
Or a third party.
Well, no, they don't make any money there. Well, unless, actually, do you have to get certified?
I feel like they have to.
Okay, I think you may, if there's a certification, then they probably do make some sort of money there. But yeah, this is basically to crack down on the do-it-yourself market, and
it's completely absurd.
It is completely absurd. I'm pretty sure that like legally, you're legally allowed to jailbreak your phone, right? You're allowed to choose what software you put on your phone.
You're allowed to open it up.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Like.
Your warranty may be void, but your whole purpose is to be fixing.
Well, that's
your
the
device.
thing. I cannot speak with regard to the hardware tampering. That would make more sense if that was not covered by warranty, I guess, because you could have you could static, you could fry your phone. So
or laptop
or laptop, any sort of electronic. The idea is, though, that, obviously if you're fixing it yourself, that you save money. And also, what I was getting at, though, is that when you jailbreak your phone, you have the right to do that, and that doesn't void your warranty,
and
by the way.
freedom to record that as information to share with someone else, as a guide.
Probably. I can't speak with regard to the actual legal whatevers with that one.
Legality.
But yeah, the legality, that's a word, guys. Legality. Yeah, that's alright, we're gonna have to bring out a thesaurus or a dictionary one of these days. Yeah, so I can't speak to the legality on that, but it would make sense, right? It would make sense. Anyways, yep, we're going to be right back. We're gonna have another music break, and then we're going to talk about the UK and Black Lives Matter, by the way.
So stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
fly my shit, sever your neck, whatever, never with mine. Tongue big and fuck arsenic. Burning solution and fly with straight arson shit. Your arsenal strip, power rifle jackets and clips. It's my ability to define phenomenal raw. Crenshaw 84, boogie down before. LA when the war break off. Where you be, take off. Standing full face off with the M1 millimeter. Let the rhythm of the chamber hit 'em. Let the rich play catch with 'em. Better yet, make 'em eat 'em and shit 'em till they so full of holes that they drown in their own. I'm like a nail stuck in the wrist of their Christmas. Don't need radio to lead the family a witness. Muhammad and Christ for life will lay your body down. To the tools so wild international. In the desert for the woman, let your body rock. With my soul, with my words, with my body rock. Muhammad and Christ will lay your body down. To the tools so wild international. In the desert for the woman, let your body rock. With my soul, with my words. In this era where DJs behave, we paid to be slaves. We raid airwaves to be sane. What's raining from the station? Cash fascination like living dead fed agents. Distracted fast from a disaster's wrath for sure. Air war is flooded like the night ward. On the AM, turn and face them. Hatred and mayhem, slay them. Dangerous, I take razor steps. It's a swing from the bling to the bang of the left. It's the murderous return, boom, bad, full strap. Your six that got clipped, you can't clap back. With minimal lip and criminal flow, I'm killing them soft and filling them full. Everything stole, and once again I'm that nailing the wrist of they Christmas. Watch me make their family a witness. Muhammad and Christ for life will lay your body down. To a tune so wild, international. In the desert for the bullets, let your body rock. With my call, with my words, with my body rock. Muhammad and Christ will lay your body down. To a tune so wild, international. In the desert for the bullets, let your body rock. With my call, with my words, with my body rock.
Alright, and welcome back to the Progressive Agenda. That was Wild International by One Day as a Lion was the first song, and As We Fall by I Embodiment was the second. Alright guys, I'm sure you've all heard, guys and gals, and non-binary individuals, I'm sure you've all heard about the tragic events that have gone on in the black community this past week. Alton Sterling has died as a result of a police encounter. He was selling CDs, and two cops came up to them, tried to arrest him. They ended up tackling him, and then while they were on top of him, they fired into him and killed him.
Before you can hear somebody shout, he has a gun.
I'm pretty sure that was the cop.
It may have been the cop.
I'm pretty sure.
And then proceeded to shoot him. Yeah,
me and John have watched the video. It's pretty disturbing.
There's a two-angle perspective on this. The dash cam from the cop car, and then the lady inside the vehicle.
Oh, I've seen another angle also with another cell phone video.
Okay.
Yeah, those were two. I didn't see the cop dash cam one, but from what I was able to tell, didn't look like he had a gun. you know? And, yeah, I mean, like, you can even see in the video where he kind of, like, even though he has, like, 2 giant cops on top of him, and, you know, Alton Sterling's big himself, but he's not bigger than either of these individuals, like, in any significant way or at all. I mean, like, you got 2... These were big cops, John. They were like over 200 pounds.
He was also a large
He was a big
individual.
guy, but he wasn't bigger than these cops.
He wasn't throwing around his body weight by any
No,
means
he
or
wasn't,
anything.
because he was on the
He was
ground being pinned by 2 police officers that were the same size as him.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
just
saying?
say that it's 2 against 1. It's
I mean, it's not... Okay, so in the legal sphere, size actually does matter. The size of the person is taken into account with the... like severity of charges and things like that, and like the whole picture of the situation is always taken into account. At least from well, I've heard. Let's just say I've heard prosecutors tell me themselves that they take this into account. So, you know, I haven't heard anything about him actually having a gun. Police did remove something from his pocket. After he was shot. There have been no reports of it being a gun. The cop, I'm going to say, I actually think the cops, well, at least the one that shot him, probably thought that maybe he was going for a gun, but let's be clear here, that doesn't justify it at all. What the problem...
You can't see it in the video either, because both angles turn away.
Well, I mean, you can see where his arm is like squirming and
to
like
the side, yes.
Yeah, but like it doesn't. So at least to me, it doesn't look like this individual is necessarily reaching for anything. I mean, what seems to me what was going on was this individual was pinned by 2 large officers and was probably freaking out.
And it's not like they they attempted to place his arms behind his back. It was just a full-on tackle.
Yeah, let's be honest. Like, the first thing this guy does, and when the video starts, is tackle Mr. Sterling, and yeah, that's already excessive force in my view. So, but this is a part of a bigger picture in Baton Rouge. Unfortunately, just a few months ago, there was a parade that openly mocked black men that were murdered by police and portrayed them as thugs, and then they had a picture of our president, Barack Obama, with a grill in his mouth.
Golden chain around his neck.
Yeah, and I'm sure you guys can probably understand what kind of sentiment that was trying to portray. So what we got here is part of a larger white supremacy issue. And what I mean by that, I mean like not we, because I certainly am one of these white individuals that is at least sympathetic to the struggles of the black community in regard to this. I don't experience it, of course, but the what's going on here is that there's this general attitude of many that these individuals are guilty immediately, and that they had it coming because they had a few previous charges or anything, and it's just awful because that same standard, first of all, it's awful because that standard shouldn't be applied to anybody, okay? Nobody just deserves to die. I mean, like, I even, like, I'm against the death penalty altogether, so even if it was a murderer, I would say just, like, lock them up. There's no reason to kill somebody that poses no threat to you, and part of the problem here is this training, but like the training like the officers have, they assume that everybody has a gun or could, and you know, I guess it makes sense because we have like one gun, more than one gun for every person in this country, but at the same time, like we definitely should not have spastic, trigger-happy police officers running amok. That's not a good idea for anybody, and like, yeah, I'm sure like, you know, this is this is probably like a minority of cops like who actually knows like what it is, but it's a large enough issue that we have just an epidemic, you know, like this is happening every day in this country, and it's just a tragedy. I mean, like this goes back so far. I mean, if you don't think this stuff was going on before the cameras, I mean, yeah, I don't know what you thought. I mean, you must have thought that, like, racism ended the day that MLK said his "I have a dream" speech, because I assure you, my friends, that is not the case. This has been going on for a long time. It's just that now we have cameras, all right? And now this problem
But I don't know if you can necessarily justify it like that, because we don't always know the case that's anything that's going on before the recording starts.
Well, that's so okay. You're talking about like the individual
where you only see the fighting, the struggle between the.
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking like you can maybe argue about like individual situations, what goes on or whatever. Like I don't know. Like, but the problem here is the greater epidemic of the like system, like not I guess systemic like murder of unarmed black men in this country, and is just truly unfortunate. I think it's
have they all
actually
been unarmed? Oh,
okay. So specifically, the epidemic that the focus is like unarmed. There is a lot of unarmed black men being killed. In fact, like every day, it's basically like we have another unarmed black man killed. That's basically how it goes. Like because of white supremacy, these individuals are afraid of people that don't look like them, and they perceive them as a threat because, you know, maybe like you might be 6 feet tall, and African American. I mean, people are gonna, like, a lot of racists are just gonna assume that you're by default bad, and like if you're a cop and you are a spaz, and maybe you shouldn't become a police officer in the first place. I mean, it's just a situation for disaster, especially once everyone has a gun. I mean, I just, like, I think you guys can draw conclusions as to what would happen, all right? So you got the float, okay? That was obviously offensive. And then you have the next day, CNN saying something like, did he have any weapons or anything like that, you know? And, you know, that might seem like a reasonable response, and, you know, it usually is. But let's not forget that what the media likes to do here is kind of portray this duality of like, oh, you're like, there are the, well, not that this duality doesn't exist, but they like to legitimize the side of the racists, because that's a large part of their viewer demographic, you know? So, I mean, when they go up there and they have people that are like, oh, did this guy like do this or whatever? I mean, like, this is just, it's a problem. I mean, like, it makes sense to ask questions, but don't actually try to like smear this individual or like
lure them into a situation that they.
Well, I mean, these people are dead.
Talk them into a situation.
No, I mean, these people are already dead. I'm talking about like when post these people dying, what they'll do is they'll go on the news and they'll say something that's like microaggressively racist, or not even micro. Like, you know what I mean? Sometimes it's just like hidden, like coded racism, and it's just awful. I mean, I think so. The problem is, in this country, we have what is called innocent until proven guilty. That doesn't go away if you're dead, okay? Just keep that in mind. And another travesty is that what happened to the individual that first posted this video is he's been arrested on trumped up charges, completely bogus charges of assault and battery. And what this is trying to like enforce this blue wall of silence, you know? Now that the video is around, they can't do all this. They can't terrorize poor black communities. You know, they're freaking out. They don't know what to do. You know, they don't know what, like, oh, I can't just go ahead and like harass people and like find like weed in their pocket or whatever, and then like, oh, I might be actually held accountable if someone's murdered. Like, of course you should be. You're a peace officer. You work for the taxpayer. You shouldn't be killing the taxpayer. It's completely backwards. This isn't a war zone, people. It's the United States of America. And this individual that posted this video should not be punished for doing what any reasonable citizen should have done, including police officers, in calling out and documenting and making people aware of these abuses that are going on. And also, I'm sure you guys heard of Philando Castile. He was killed in Minnesota during a traffic stop. He was reaching for his ID at the time that the cop shot him. Now, why did the cop do that? This is another situation of a spastic, trigger-happy cop who, like, because of his training and probably because he's a spaz in real life, is like, he shot this guy. And what happened was, so this guy, he wasn't, I don't even think he was being arrested at this time. He wasn't being arrested. He was reaching for his ID. Okay, because he was trying to...
Nothing had been ran, but possibly his plates. Nothing, his record
Right.
hadn't been run.
Right, he didn't even know this. Like, I mean, this guy wasn't making any sudden movements. He was... So this individual was complying with the officer's orders, you know, moving slowly, reaching for the ID. And as a result of... I guess I should explain. When Philando was pulled over, his girlfriend was driving, I believe. He informed the officer, as you're supposed to, that he had a concealed weapon, and it was perfectly legal. Philando had a CCW permit, and even aside from that, it was an open carry state, like Ohio is. So you're able to openly carry a gun. So these officers should already assume that, you know, he might have a gun. Like, this shouldn't be something that's, like, super, I guess my argument is, if guns really do make people safer, why are they afraid? Why are they afraid? You know, like, why would, if guns truly do make situations more safe, and the cops have a gun...
Well, if you have any kind of weapon in the vehicle with you, I feel like they'd be afraid.
Yeah, but that's the problem. It doesn't make the situation more safe.
If you have a hammer sitting next to you, even like a tool...
It's a weapon, right? You're being, like, exactly, you're only, like, proving my point.
It's only a weapon until you use it as a weapon.
Okay, yeah, whatever. Yeah, yeah. It's just a tool, right? Just a tool that can kill somebody. Yeah. Shoot them dead. Yeah. In a matter of seconds. Mm-hmm. I guess even a split second. I mean, it only takes one shot to kill people.
Yeah, only one
well-placed shot, maybe even not well-placed, you get lucky.
With the blade of your knife.
It's a lot harder to kill somebody with a knife.
A broadsword.
It is still more difficult because a broadsword is pretty heavy, John.
Okay, you have daggers.
It's harder to kill someone with a dagger. It's much harder to kill someone with a shuriken. Are you kidding me?
I don't know.
Yeah.
You're pretty skilled at that.
Me?
If you take it up and practice.
I mean, okay, but that's the point. You don't have to actually be skilled with a gun.
There are some pretty shoddy shots.
Yeah, but you understand what I'm saying is, like, it's easier for the typical person to pick up a gun and kill somebody than with a shuriken. That is why...
when you have a CCW, you go through a class.
Right.
And you're taught how to properly hold.
But in as far as the fact that there was a weapon, the cop should be concerned because there's a weapon. However, the person went through all of the right training, right? He has his CCW. I have no problem with that. I'm just talking about the general situation where the climate of this, where it should have just been a simple, like, broken taillight or whatever it was, this cop, because of his ideas of race and all those things, thought because, like, this guy had a CCW that he was, like, dangerous, you know? And, like, I guess what the problem...
He was so quick to draw his gun.
He was. I mean, the problem here isn't that... isn't necessarily just CCWs in general or guns. I mean, I guess the problem is the way in which guns as they are right now are a problem. But
every
hold on a second. Hold
situation
on.
is handled differently.
Hold on. So the right to bear arms is not the same if you're black. It's just not your rights
I
to...
feel like that's ignorant of you to say that.
I don't think that's even close to being ignorant, because the NRA always defends any sort of white guy or whatever. They've not issued a statement on Philando Castile. Okay? They've not said one thing about this. All right? The NRA that is so about the Second Amendment, that is so interested in defending your rights to carry a gun, has said nothing about Philando Castile, who followed all of the laws. He had a CCW. His gun was registered. He had every right to hold it.
They have no obligation to make a statement. You think the president?
They don't have any obligation. They don't have a public obligation when they say every single time, when they defend your right to buy a gun without a background check at a private seller, they won't defend the completely lawful right of the completely lawful action of this individual to carry a concealed weapon. That's a complete double standard. It's obvious. Like, that is so obvious.
I'm not saying they shouldn't. They should definitely make a statement.
Right, but that's the problem. That's the problem, is that these Second Amendment rights and First Amendment rights, Fourth Amendment rights, they're not applied the same across the board. There are different groups in this country. Okay, and your rights are respected differently based on where you fall in those groups. Okay, and that is the problem here. It's not... That is why Philando Castile is dead, because if I guarantee you that this wouldn't have happened if it was a white guy. It's obvious.
It could happen. You can't make
okay. So first of all, it's disproportionately happening to black individuals. Okay, so that we already know, but police shootings are rising for white individuals, people. So if you're a white person and and for whatever reason you don't think that this is a big deal because it doesn't affect you,
there are still people out there.
Give it time, and it will. Okay? Just let this problem keep happening, and I guarantee you, eventually it will happen to your community, because it is rising as of right now. Just keep that in mind. All right? And get this, all right? Norway, their police force hasn't killed a single person in 10 years. That's a decade. That's almost half of my life. I'm 21.
I believe Germany is up there as well in the same...
No, they've killed a few people, but it's just a few. Norway has a smaller population than Germany, but Germany also does great work with their police force, but the Scandinavian countries are even more so. Netherlands also is another country that they actually have to close their jails and prisons because they got nobody to use them.
But they also have programs that have incentives for these individuals that have gone through and have been incarcerated, and they have programs to get them back on their feet and do public works.
Well,
and
that's the thing. These are
so they could be properly socialized.
No, I know, but that's the problem. These are fundamentally different criminal justice systems. I mean, you have one that's actually focused on rehabilitation
your money and to keep you in there and to take away your rights and never have a chance again.
Mm-hmm.
And the other wants you to never show up back in jail or commit another crime and actually produce in the society.
I know. Let's not get twisted, guys. This is about Jim Crow 2.0 in this country, and we know very well that there are ways to organize a police force that can be done much easier than things like, say, invading Iraq, and it would probably have near same results, where we would go 10 years, just like Norway, and you would never hear. Like, it would just be such a rare event. Someone dies by police. That's such a weird thing. Like, don't you want to live in a world like that? Where nobody dies by police?
But there's also situations where that's not possible.
I mean, what was that not possible for, though? That's not possible.
Gang violence.
why are gangs exist? Like
Drugs.
this has to do with the war.
comes down
That's
to
the
the
war
war on
on drugs. It's part of the criminal justice system.
Yeah, but that's
how
where
it's
it starts.
arranged. No, I know, but this is that's what I'm arguing about, is because the entire system is arranged in a way to systematically imprison individuals because they actually make money off of this. Okay, this isn't necessarily an accident, and because they want to cut corners and hire any cop or whatever and pay them like $15 an hour or whatever, which is barely a living wage. So that's another thing I'll hear. Like, people are like, oh, I don't think that fast food workers should be paid the same as cops. Then raise the pay of cops. You know, cops in Scandinavian countries get paid almost as much as doctors. And you know what? And that's why they have amazing cops. Okay, you have to go to college to be a cop. All right, I'm pretty sure. Okay, yeah, Norway's doing a great job. Anyways, and then we have the Dallas shooting. Truly an unfortunate situation. What's happened here is these things have finally boiled over, and we've had return fire. You know, individual. His name was Micah Xavier Johnson, which I unfortunately saw written as Micah X Johnson on another thing. I don't know if that's how he actually wrote it or whatever. It's just like, I find that kind of like, really? You're gonna like make that Malcolm X connection there? Anyways, he was a 25-year-old Army Reserve vet. He served in Afghanistan. He was found to be, well, it was reported that he was mentally unstable.
He also had in his possession meth and cocaine.
I didn't hear that. I guess that would make sense, right? If you're gonna like get all wired and shoot some cops, I guess. Anyways, what basically happened here is that when this individual was serving in the Army, it was he didn't appear to have any sort of hostility to the white population, but unfortunately that changed with these recent events. Not just these recent events, but you know, the overall trend obviously affected this individual, and he was already mentally unstable. Like, unfortunately, many veterans are, and there are not.
It doesn't help when you cut medical marijuana.
Well, I mean, there's the medical pot. I mean, there's just like, there's really nothing for these.
Funding for
funding, right.
Medical care.
Right, cutting funding for the VA, things like that. I mean, like,
for this country, and we don't support.
Yeah, we don't take care of our veterans. It's really unfortunate. I mean, like, you're going to send these people to war. You're going to create a debt problem for years to come in the trillions, and then you're going to not take care of the veterans. It's just unbelievable. I mean, I like, even the people like 50 years ago who are all hyped up on like the Cold War and stuff like that, I don't even think they definitely wouldn't support that. I definitely don't think a lot of right wingers do. They want us to take care of their veterans, but for some reason, like, you know, like, you have to like increase spending and stuff for that. But I don't know that they would necessarily. A lot of them would have a problem with that. It's just the politicians that don't want to do it, and it's just tragic.
Or the corrupt ones that are.
What do you mean, all of them?
Right
like
now.
all of them?
Yeah.
Yeah, just about. Not Bernie Sanders that we know of. I reserve the right to change that opinion, by the way. So 5 cops died, 8 were injured, and 2 bystanders were injured, and that was this was the deadliest day for police since 9/11. Now, I know like 5 doesn't sound like a lot, but yeah, this is quite a big event. You know, this is just one town. Dallas, not really town, it's city. So 5 cops, it's a big deal, and 8 were injured. Who knows how badly? I mean, they could be completely messed up. You know, we don't really know. And you know, So I guess to give a little bit more background on the individual, he was honorably discharged. That wasn't the original recommendation. The reason for it was because he had been apparently sexually harassing a female soldier, and that led to him coming back, as it were. And once he came back, he became involved. I don't know if it was immediately after, but he became involved in some black separatist activity groups or whatever. And you know, some of these groups are okay, some of these are really not okay. I mean, like, some of these almost qualify as hate groups, but not all of them. I mean, you gotta kind of like take it with the individual case. So I mean, nothing inherently wrong with being a black nationalist, but obviously, like, his views were radicalized and led to this due to the climate, mind you, of this country. And part of the reason I wanted to talk about him as a person was to give you guys the idea that this was an American citizen. You know, he was mentally unstable. He did something absolutely heinous, you know, that definitely isn't going to help the cause in the long run. At least I don't think so. Probably not. I'm going to say definitely not. He was killed with by a robot with an explosive charge attached to it.
Somehow people have issues with that. I don't
know that I have
There's
issues.
definitely been a voice out against them doing that with a robot.
Here's my problem. The first guy was a black guy.
No one got hurt.
Why is it a black guy? This is a new, like, this is a fundamentally new thing for us, you know, this whole, like, this is the first time in US history that a robot was used by police to deliver lethal force against a suspect, and this is very significant because this can set a precedent, okay? Whether or not you agree with its use in this one, we have to, like, you gotta understand that the events following this are going to determine how often, how frequently, and how these things are used, okay? And this is military grade equipment, you know.
It's an EOD bot.
Yeah. So what happens is, so since I don't know if you know, but half of our discretionary spending in Congress goes to the military-industrial complex. And we can't afford college, but I digress. Anyways, so as a result of that, there are a lot of leftover weapons and stuff like that take a lot of money to take care of. The Pentagon doesn't really want to do it, so they give these things to local police departments.
Or they auction them off to other nations, you know.
That too.
Supply them with out-of-date equipment.
Yeah.
Or such as selling our blueprints to China for the F-16.
Yeah, I mean, like, this, like, you gotta understand, like, this is tied in with economics, you know? Like, they're able to save a little bit money by, they don't have to deal with the upkeep on these weapons of war, and so they give them to the police, you know? And surprise, surprise, now the cops are acting like it's a war zone. Well, maybe if we didn't give them drones. And tanks. And
Their armored vehicles.
yeah. I mean, really just things that you would see in, you know, Ramadi, you know, which is in Iraq, by the way. That is what you're seeing on the streets these days, typically in poor black communities, in situations where they maybe perceive threat of a riot. It's just, it's unfortunate. This shouldn't be happening on U.S. soil. I mean, I'm not going to say with this specific situation. That's hard for me to judge. This individual, while he was pinned down, was laughing. It's not a laughing matter, but he was laughing, and was like, "How many cops did I kill?" and things like that. It was obviously. And you know, the reason it's difficult is because there were so many cops killed in this, 5, quite a bit. I know it doesn't sound like much, but it is quite a bit. And this individual wanted to kill more, and it makes sense that they wanted to neutralize the threat. And I don't necessarily have a problem with this. I just think we need to be conscious of how this sets a precedent and how these things will be used, because we cannot allow the sort of like wanton and haphazard policy we have with these things abroad to come home. First of all, we need to end them abroad. We need to end this absolute like ridiculous use of drones abroad, and we need to, at the very least, fundamentally rethink how we do it, if not just completely eliminate it. And because as of right now, we just about always get the wrong people, and if that starts happening on U.S. soil, I don't even know. I'm gonna move. Yeah, and oh jeez, and the Dallas police chief had some words for Congress for this. He told them to shove their thoughts and prayers and to do their job. And I hope that we all can agree that Congress should do its job. And on that note, we're going to wrap it up. Thank you for listening to us today on WAKT WAKT Radio 1061. This has been the Progressive Agenda. I'm James.
I'm John.
Awesome. We'll talk to you later, and tune in next time.